Here's my information architecture analysis and recommendations for the Charlotte Hungerford Hospital website. So, your first impressions. The first thing you notice about the site is the clutter. There's a lot of information fighting for the audience's attention all over the page. The hierarchy is weak and there's a lot of repetition, as you can see in this image here. The navigation structure. There's a main navigation bar located along the top of the screen. Most of the links have drop-down options, and in addition to the main navigation, there's a secondary navigation, so right under here, which consists of picture links that also can be accessed in the services drop-down from the main navigation. There's also a tertiary navigation along the bottom of the page that's a little more basic. Labels in the main navigation are meant to represent chunks of information, so they should be clear and intuitive without taking up too much room on the page. The labels in the main navigation successfully blend into the site's design without calling too much attention to them, and some of them are more successful than others in their representation of the information. A big success of the links within the drop-downs was that they are descriptive enough for users to know what they're leading to. The services label and departments label are kind of confusing because all of the options listed in departments like cancer center, cardiology, surgery, and orthopedics can be listed as services as well as departments. So when visiting a site, the search bar is almost always at the top. For Charlotte Hungerford Hospital, the search bar is at the bottom of the page in with the tertiary nav. When many sites use a pattern matching algorithm, this search does not. This hurts the site's search function because if somebody misspells something, like in the image here I misspelled the word doctor and hit search, it didn't return any helpful results. In other tests, I searched doctor and ER, and they still returned these same three results, which are links to their articles on their news page. So where I expected to be led, I had no information that helped me. Moving on to the site map. This is an overview of all of the pages on the site and how the information should be laid out. Here's a closer look at the main navigation bar where the user would go to find the information that they're looking for. And then here is a closer look at the About Us tab. So here it shows all the pages listed and the sub-pages that are listed from that. The site map is helpful because it shows where everything is going and how everything is organized. Moving on to the analysis part of the project. Hungerford has a lot of competition in their navigation, a lot of repetition in their navigation, and a lot of clutter on their homepage. So their cluttered homepage is clearly an attempt to get their user interested in the material, but they miss the mark. So Yale New Haven Hospital is a well-established hospital in the area, and there's a lot of information on their homepage, but it is shown in an image carousel. So this rotates. So it has a more modern feel to it and it's less boring. Also, a lot of their information is located below the fold, which you can see on this over here. So scrolling down, you get to this search bar and all of this information here. So there's a strong hierarchy here to ensure that the user doesn't feel lost or overwhelmed. Moving on to our card sort. So I used a closed card sort. I gave 10 users 7 main navigation headings and 30 cards that were a mix of secondary navigation headings and information that they would find on those pages. Their task was to sort the cards into each of the main labels according to where they thought the information would be located. The results of the test are displayed in this table. That calculated their most popular answers. So there are some important key takeaways from the gathered data. Most popular answers show that there is some confusion about the jobs label on the site, and there are a lot of scattered answers, so there's a little bit of a struggle to organize this information correctly, but for the most part, people thought that each section belonged where it actually belonged, which shows that the navigation isn't as weak as I originally thought. Moving on to the tree test. So a tree test gives a user a task and has them click through the navigation and attempt to figure out where certain information is located. The first task is your relative recently had surgery and you want to go visit them at Charlotte Hungerford Hospital. Before going, you need to figure out the visiting hours and where would you find that information. So there was only a 10% direct success rate, which meant people had to click around and backtrack a lot before finding their right answer. But everyone eventually got to the right spot. Okay, so the second scenario is various types of cancer run in your family. You know that early detection is key. Where would you go to find information on various screenings? 30% of users got this wrong from backtracking. So they clicked through the site, they found an answer, they left the answer, and then they went back to it and clicked it, and it turned out to be wrong. 20% of users got the right information directly. So they went right straight to the right place without backtracking. 50% of users got the information right, but they had to backtrack to get that information. The third scenario is that you just moved to the area and you need to find a good primary care provider. Where can you find information about doctors in the area or doctors or care providers in the area? So the first task had one right answer and the second two had multiple right answers, but still 20% of people got the answer wrong. 10% had to backtrack and before they got the wrong answer, and 10% just got it wrong right off the bat. 20% of people got it correct directly without having to backtrack, and 60% had to backtrack before they got the wrong answer. So the results are displayed in all these graphics, and it shows that only 20% of answers were chosen without the user having to backtrack. So that means that there's definitely some layout issues with the navigation. In the conclusion, I believe that there's some very important things that this site needs to adjust, and one of them is the navigation labels. So the language can be a little ambiguous, which is not helpful for the users. Everything needs to be clear and intuitive. Then the organization, things can be grouped differently so that information is more easily accessible. The search function is malfunctioning, and that needs to be adjusted and rectified very soon. And then the design. So the Yale Hospital had a more modern design. This design is more dated, and it kind of hurts the entire user experience. So modernizing the site, fixing the search, reorganizing the information, and working to relabel some of the navigation options will help the site to succeed. And that's all.